Right?
Right.
Amazing. I want to bring up a special guest or two. Mr. Ivan Reitman is in the house. There we go.
That's the first time I've seen it in about 25 years.
I was just going to ask you that.
Well, I'm just trying to help.
You should just answer every question in advance, that my work is done here. I was wondering if you could just give us a little backstory on how this movie came together.
It started on my first movie was a movie, actually technically my second movie, was a movie called Meatballs. It was the first time film. I was going to the premiere of Meatballs in Toronto, and while I was shaving to get ready for that, I suddenly thought, and I wanted to work with Bill again, certainly, but I was just thinking what could be my next film, and I somehow, this was the time of Up in Smoke with Cheech and Chong, and I thought, well, Cheech and Chong joined the Army, and this was Meatballs, an independent movie. It was picked up by Paramount, so the head of Paramount was there, and I went to him and I said, at the premiere of Meatballs, I said, my next film, Cheech and Chong joined the Army. He says, great, we'll do that. And in the process of how things work, as the movie got written, it was written actually for Cheech and Chong. It was a total stoner movie, and actually all of Judge Reinhold, everything good in that stoner movie was played by Judge Reinhold, most of which is gone. And you know, I couldn't make a deal with Cheech and Chong. Actually, Cheech, who's now a good friend of mine, I remember telling him, you know, I wanted you for Stripes. Are you kidding me? I could have been in Stripes. I said, yeah. I said, I went to your manager and I said, I want Cheech and Chong in this new movie, and he said, fine, you can have him. I think he wanted whatever, $1 million, $2 million for them. And then he said, I want 25% of your next 5 movies. I'm not exaggerating. I'm telling you the absolute truth. This is a hip Hollywood crowd, so you understand. I said,
super cool.
I said, I've done Animal House, and Meatballs is kind of a big hit, and I don't understand why I should be giving you 25% of my next 5 movies for the honor of having Cheech and Chong. And so no deal was made, and they didn't know anything about it, of course. This was just one of those Hollywood things. And so I immediately turned to Dan Goldberg and Len Bloom, who wrote this, and said, okay, look, we have to reconfigure the movie. Maybe I can talk Bill Murray into doing it. Let's do it for Bill, and you know what, Harold, who I did a show called The National Lampoon Show. Before Saturday Night Live, and it had Bill Murray in it, and John Belushi, and Gilda Radner, and Harold Ramis, and Joe Flaherty. And he was as strong as anybody in the show, and most of them got picked up by Saturday Night Live, but he was not acting. You know, he was writing, and I knew how brilliant he was, and I figured he could hold his own. Let's put him in that. And I finally, you know, talked Columbia into doing the version with the two of them. Finally talked Bill Murray into doing it 2 weeks before the movie started shooting, and that's how this thing got started.
It's so surprising to me that Bill Murray came out at that point, because a lot of the movie has an improvisational flavor to it. Was that the case, or was it all on the page?
A lot was actually on the page. It was a really good script, but you know, I had 2 of these extraordinary writers, actors, who improv'd a lot, and I quickly, you know, I'm no idiot. I saw, well, we would do things. I figured my job was, you know, to choreograph the movie as well as I could, and then beyond that, to encourage them to not so much improvise, but to do the last draft of the movie while we were shooting it. And what that really meant was we would certainly do it the way it was exactly written, and then if something didn't work, and you know, they had great ideas. On a daily basis, we would meet in somebody's sort of trailer and say, okay, what else can we do with this scene? And as we started shooting, I developed this sort of, it started on Meatballs because, you know, Bill hated everything that was in the script originally. So I quickly learned that if I was going to survive that shoot, I would have to really be quick on my toes. And so even though a scene may have been devised to happen over here, and his great idea was to have it over here, and it really was a good idea, I had to figure out how to do that, do it quickly, and at the same time, be the policeman for the story and the character. And so, for example, improv is great, but what you see now in a lot of improv movies is, the actors are just like, they're doing funny things, but they're actually doing it at the expense of the characters in the story. So it was always encouraging and trying to hold on to things that were really good and not letting them just do another one. One of the problems with Bill always was he felt it was an obligation to come up with something new on every single take. And now that's a great thing. It gives us great things in the screenplay.
Nightmare.
It is a technical nightmare, and you want to hone the really great stuff, even though he's done it before. But he did, and he's extraordinary. He's really the most talented comic actor that I've ever worked with.
Yeah.
Jason, you were what, 4 years old on that set? 4 or 5?
It had an enormous impact on me. Yeah, it was 4 years. I don't remember any of the shoot. My first memory in life was actually being on the scoring stage of Stripes and watching Elmer Bernstein conduct that sequence when the EM-50 pulls up to the mansion in Germany. And I remember being...
Is that all?
I'm sorry, I don't have more to deliver, but I mean, that was the first memory of life, just sitting there surrounded by an orchestra watching that happen.
You like the tanks. We shot at Fort Knox. One of the things that made...
I like the tanks.
Stripes was shot in 40 days on a budget of $10 million then, and it wasn't a lot of money then either. And 40 days certainly is not a lot of days for something quite as complex as this, with multiple stories and multiple characters. And we were very lucky. We were able to talk the Department of Defense to letting us actually shoot with real soldiers, with real machinery, and real equipment on a real base, while it was in operation. It was Fort Knox in Kentucky. We all lived in Louisville for those 40 days.
Did you so you shot it entirely in that area? Because the movie just feels like ambitious in scope.
Yeah, well, that's the backwoods of Kentucky. Most of Czechoslovakia, except for the gravestone section, you may have noticed, which was Schloss Habsburg of Germany. That's just up the street in Beverly Hills. I can't even remember what. I think we came back to Los Angeles for the last 2 or 3 weeks of filming, and so we shot on a stage here and on a couple of the bases here for some of the interiors, and I guess we were on location for 4 weeks actually.
And then a couple days in New York, I guess, at the top or bottom?
No, that's Louisville.
No!
That's Louisville,
No
yes,
way.
Kentucky. All that beginning, all that stuff with and that bridge is a bridge going into Louisville.
I've been fooled for a long time.
I mean, looking forward, Jason has said on record that he is going to direct Ghostbusters 3, and I wanted to know how you...
But I'd be happy to have him do it. Thank you for the t-shirts, by the way, guys.
It's going to be the most boring Ghostbusters movie of all time. It's going to be Ghostbusters talking about ghosts.
I want to open it up. Does anybody have any questions? Take it away.
It's hard to imagine that without Bill Murray. You said you sold him on it 2 weeks before you started filming. What was the plan if he didn't relent?
Well, he showed up on the first day of shooting of Meatballs. So I had no contingency plan on that movie. I was actually financing partially with my own money and my 2 partners. It was a Canadian movie. The budget was $500,000, and we had no contingency. We had all the other cast, which are nice kids from the Toronto area, and I kept calling Bill on Meatballs. I said, Bill, and he wasn't on Saturday Night Live yet. He had been in my show. He knew me. He said, you can't direct. And I said, but you're not doing it. He said, yes, I'm playing baseball and I'm golfing this summer. And he was I think he had already been hired to go on to Saturday Night Live